Hey everybody, we have just crossed the 1 o'clock hour on the East Coast. So if I am now competing with your March Madness bracket, I hope you are joining us in the on-demand version after your team has been successful. No bracket busters here. Welcome to everybody. I am excited to host our partners at ADEA, also otherwise known as the American Dental Education Association. Longtime partners, arguably the founding association for Health Professions Week. So I don't know if any of you all know the history of HPW, but it does definitely include the bright ideas that come out of ADEA. So we are thankful to have them as partners, grateful to have them providing us with content today. We've got, just like we normally do, video to watch. This is a really cool interview with a current student who is enrolled at East Carolina School of Dental Medicine. So we're going to roll that video, and then I'll introduce to you our speaker today, and we'll answer your questions if you are joining us live. If not, we'll go through our normal questions and get some answers to you today. So here we go.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Curtis Burrell. I am the Senior Director of Recruitment and Outreach for Dental Education at ADEA, and we're here today with Allison Temple, who's joining us from East Carolina University School of Dental Medicine to talk to us about her experience applying to and being a first-year dental student. So welcome, Allison. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. So let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about why you were considering the profession and why you chose dentistry?
Yeah, so the age-old question that everyone gets asked during their dental school interview, luckily it's still fresh in my head because it wasn't too long ago that I was in the pre-dent shoes and applying myself, but I feel like, so my dad is actually a dentist, and I really tried not to want to be a dentist. I did not want to follow in his footsteps. However, everything that I came across, all these experiences I had, kept leading me in that direction. And so it wasn't until I was, I think, a sophomore in high school, and I had been dabbling with different healthcare career options. I knew healthcare was what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what. And so I went on a mission trip with my church, and we went to a small town in Guatemala, and a couple of the women didn't speak. And I knew a little bit of Spanish back in the day, and so I kept trying to communicate with them, and they just wouldn't communicate. And so I eventually talked to some of the younger kids and was like, why, is it us? Like, why don't they speak? And one of the kids was like, oh, they don't have any teeth. And I was like, that's something that I could fix in the future. And so ever since then, I feel like everything I've done, all the service experiences I've had just consistently led me to dentistry. And here I am.
Great, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to go to ECU and kind of where that was kind of as part of your journey of selecting that place as the school for you?
Yes. So growing up in a military family, I moved around all the time. And so I never really had one location that was home for me until my grandparents moved to North Carolina when I was about 1 year old. And ever since then, it's been the constant in my life. And so I kind of knew that North Carolina would be where I ended up because it's where my parents are now. And so when I was looking at dental schools, I just kept being drawn to ECU, especially because of their mission. They're very much service oriented. And in their mission and vision statement, they talk about how they want to prepare leaders and they want to serve the underserved. And I feel like everything I've done in my past has been to make myself a better leader, as well as to serve my community and give back to the underserved however I can. And so when it came time to getting my acceptance from ECU, even if I had another acceptance from another school, I knew that that's where I wanted to be, just because I knew they could make me a stronger leader, as well as help me fulfill my personal mission of giving back to my community in the future. And in my first year, I'm only 6 or 7 months in, I can say that it has lived up to those standards. So I'm very happy to be here.
It's always nice to find a place that aligns with your personal values and your professional.
Exactly.
That's great. Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you leveraged the ADEA resources as you navigated the journey to dental school? What helped you? What was really great?
Yeah, so one thing that they do, I think it's almost immediately after you register yourself, as a student, as a dentist, whatever it is, and they send you this guide, and it's the ADIA Guide to Dental School, and it has little snapshots of almost every dental school in the US and Puerto Rico, I believe. And so it just gives you a little bit of information, a little summary about what the school is about, what they do, their average scores. And so if you're, nervous about, okay, my GAT score is this, you can kind of look at what schools' averages are, and that's something that I personally did. Another thing that they did was, if you needed help when you were applying on the ADSAS, they were able to communicate or get back to you pretty quickly. And I was a reapplicant, and so I know that they made the reapplication process so much easier than it could be. And all I had to do was click copy my application, and it was there. And so that was very helpful. But that guide was honestly like my Bible when it came to applying to dental school, because it had everything that you needed in it. So that was awesome. And everyone should get a copy of that.
Okay, yeah, so it has the US and Canada, so that includes for.
Oh.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about the Health Professions Scholarship Program that you've enrolled in and how that's aiding you in your professional goals?
Yeah, so the Army, Navy, and the Air Force have a Health Professions Scholarship, or the HPSB program, that you can apply for. And they have the 4-year scholarship, 3-year, and 2-year. I'm personally on an Army 4-year scholarship. And essentially what it is they help you pay for school, and you owe some time in the military. And so for myself, I'll owe 4 years of active duty to the Army. However, I think I said before that I grew up in a military family, and so I'm actually the 4th generation Army officer in my family. And we have, I think, 97 or 93 years of service to the Army. And so it's always been my goal to make us or get us to 100. So that's definitely a little bit of personal reason why I chose the Army. However, it's also, to not have to worry about paying for dental school, because it can be a financial burden for many. And there are amazing loan repayment programs out there. There's amazing student loan services out there. So a lot of resources for us. However, not having to worry about that when there's so many other stressors in dental school is amazing. And at the end of the day, I've always been geared towards service. And I think there's no better way to serve than to serve your country. So I'm very excited and honored to have the opportunity to do that.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. Hopefully you get to that 100th year mark and have a good celebration with your family.
I hope so.
Nice. Well, as students are getting ready to make that journey and start that journey, what advice do you have for them on, how to be successful in pursuing a dental career?
So as someone who applied multiple times, for anyone who might be a reapplicant, definitely don't get discouraged, because it's not easy. If it was easy, there'd be a lot more dentists out there. And so I know that was something that was hard for me, was because I was so competitive, and not getting in the first or second time definitely took a toll on me. But something I learned throughout the process was to stay true to myself. And instead of just becoming a score or a number on an application, I was like, let me still do things that I want to do. And so I had been recommended to do either a post-bac or take some upper level graduate science classes. And instead, I chose to get a master's in public health, which, although that title is still very prestigious to some, it's not necessarily what I was recommended to do. However, I knew that how much I love service and my community and the population, I knew that public health was the perfect fit for me. And at the end of the day, I really do think that going that path helped me get into dental school. And so if there's something that you wanted to do either before starting dental school or some like a degree path that you think, oh, this is what I want to do, but it might not help me, it actually could. And so definitely stay true to yourself, find good mentors, and don't be so focused on your numbers, because you're much more than your DAT score or your GPA. A lot of schools really do look at the whole applicant. So definitely just continue to do what you're doing, because I'm sure everyone out there is killing it. And if this is what you really want to do, it's what you're going to do. So just remember that.
Very well. Thanks for sharing your story with us today and learning more about you and your journey, and also your dedication to serving others, which I think is really great. And I'm excited to see where you go with your career in the years to come. So thank you very much, Allison. Really
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about the dental profession, check out ideagodental.org. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
All right, so I hope you guys got to enjoy that interview. I just want to point out real quickly where, if you enjoyed Allison's story, where you can go to hear more student stories. So as we've already talked about, we have on the HPW YouTube channel various playlists. We have a playlist maintained by ADIA where they are able to provide for us to give to you for free a variety of stories coming from current students and dental hygienists and just, you know, practicing dental professionals. So if you want to learn more, if you want to hear more, definitely jump on this playlist and take a look. And at this time, I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Johnson and have her. Hi, Liz. So in full disclosure, Liz is on our planning committee. Adia has been on the planning committee for like all 6 years. So we are good friends, and it's fun to have a good friend here to talk with today. So thank you, Liz, for being with us and really doing this interview specifically for SpringHPW. So we appreciate that and appreciate hearing your student stories. Allison talked a lot about, you know, the plan to, you know, to become a dentist and that pathway. Talk us through what happens next for Allison. What does the rest of the educational pathway for a dentist look like?
Sure, great question, Mandy. So, you know, it is a little different for every student, of course, and Allison's story is even more different in the sense that she has chosen the, you know, that Army path. And so, you know, what she will end up doing is the 4 years in dental school at ECU, and then, as she mentioned in the video, she'll have that 4-year commitment. So at the Army. So it's a little different. But generally speaking, you know, if you aren't going down that path, you do your 4 years in dental school. There is one dental school currently with 3 years, but the others in the US are 4, I know. And then you either decide to, you know, get your license and become a dentist right away, or you can go on to advanced training. So, you know, one difference we talk about in dentistry is that, you know, you don't have to do a residency like you have to do in some of the other health professions, like medicine, for instance. So if you're ready to, you know, pay off some of those loans, as Allison mentioned, dental school is not the most inexpensive option. You know, you can go right into practice, and there are several people who choose to do that and then go back and get some advanced, you know, education. So of course, if, you know, I hear students when I'm talking to them say, oh, I want to be an orthodontist, which is great, but you do your 4 years of general dentistry, and then you do have to do an additional training, you know, in orthodontics to become a licensed orthodontist. So, and again, all of those are a little bit different. There's 13 specialties now. I think we've increased them in the last few years. It's a lot, I know. So the ones you would know about and ones you don't, some are much smaller, some are bigger. You know, we have a whole application service at ADIA that focuses on that advanced education. So, you know, there's a lot of options for students who, you know, again, want to just do dentistry, or they want to specialize. And again, you know, anywhere from 1 to 6 years, depending on what you want to do. At the 6-year mark, we're talking about, you know, an oral surgeon. So somebody you'd be familiar with, you know. When I was a kid, I had to get my teeth pulled from an oral surgeon, but they actually, but they actually do a lot more work than that. A lot of them are in hospitals. So some, you know, oral surgeons actually have a dual MD and DMD or DDS. So it depends on the program they go through. Obviously, that's that 6-year, you know, track. And so they'll work in a hospital setting. So if, for instance, somebody comes in and they were in a car crash and they have some serious issues, you know, sustained to their mouth and jaw, they might more likely than not see an oral surgeon. So, you know, if there's a dog bite, for instance, they come in and they might see an oral surgeon. Again, anything, you know, down here in a hospital setting, they might see an oral surgeon. So it's a very interesting dynamic field that I talk about dentistry all the time, of course, but I think some students that are interested in the profession don't necessarily understand the breadth of options available in dentistry. You know, sometimes you think of, oh, the dentist just in the office, and that's not true. That's really what makes the profession dynamic. You can, you know, Allison was talking about getting her master's of science in public health. So you can become a public health dentist and work in community clinics. You could also work for ADIA, for instance. For a while, we had a public health dentist on staff working at ADIA and doing policy work. So there's a lot of different options. You know, NIH has their own research, you know, institute devoted to stuff related to dental research and dentistry. So, you know, it's really a fascinating field in that you have really the sky is the limit, and you don't have to choose between public health and dentistry or pediatric dentistry. If you're interested in children, you don't have to choose between those two. So, you know, I like to tell potential students interested in the profession, there really is, you know, a lot of options and growth and opportunities in the field.
Yeah, and that was my next question is, you know, Allison had, you know, talked about, you know, going into military service, and you talked about hospital care and, you know, and academics and working in public health, and then the private practice, which is probably what most of us are the most familiar with in terms of, you know, who we see, you know, as patients. So, and what about the range of patients, you know, from children to the elderly, you know, where do, you know, dentists, you know, start, you know, training with, you know, young kids or, you know, older populations, some of those kinds of things?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. So, you know, as I mentioned, there is, you know, a specialty that's a pediatric dentist. So, you know, I have a 2.5-year-old, and we see the pediatric dentist, you know, every 6 to 8 months. And so that, you know, they really specialize just in kids. And, you know, there's probably a cutoff at what age you're allowed to continue going to the pediatric dentist. So, you know, I wouldn't say that you necessarily, in terms of like the older population, there isn't necessarily a specialty there, but, you know, if you think about some of the other options that are available in dentistry, so a prosthodontist, for instance, deals with crowns, deals with bridges. Most of the time, unless you didn't take care of your teeth, you know, it's older populations that are generally getting bridges and dentures and crowns. So those types of specialists are seeing an older population just by default. Now, that's not always the case. There are plenty of people, unfortunately, who have to, you know, deal with those types of situations at a much younger age. But so in that sense, on the older side, you're dealing with that. And then of course there are dentists that you know, will take Medicaid patients, and so that, you know, that's a whole, you know, a whole thing where, or Medicare, I think I got that wrong, Medicare, the older patients, and so, you know, they're maybe mostly seeing those older patients and patients that, you know, might not be able to get care elsewhere. And so, you know, in the private practice, there are dentists that are seeing, you know, those patients almost exclusively, which is great, because, you know, there are places they don't have options. And on the Medicaid side, which is different, you know, people who don't have the funds to be able to see a dentist, there are dentists that are doing that too. And so it's really, you know, it's really a wonderful profession, and people really get to kind of choose what they want to do. You know, again, the pediatric dentistry is one thing, but, you know, you can really choose the kind of patients you want to see, especially if you own your own business or in private practice. Again, some of the other ones, you know, if you're at ADIA, you know, here, you don't necessarily see patients or anything like that. But, and then again, in those, you know, community service clinics, you're seeing a whole broad range of people, from young kids to older, you know, patients, to people, you know, kind of in the middle at my age, maybe, you know, and starting to get in their 30s and 40s who've never seen a dentist because they were maybe nervous about it. They, you know, had a bad experience, and they couldn't afford it. And so, I mean, you really, you know, you can really see a broad range of patients, you know, depending on what pathway you choose in the profession.
That's exciting. Liz, before I ask our last question this morning, I do want to just put one more shout out to those of you who are joining us live. Thank you for being here today. If you have a question that you want to ask Liz, go ahead and drop it into either the Q&A box, or you can drop it into the chat, and we'll read that live before we let Liz go today. If you happen to be watching this on demand and you still have questions, again, you know all of the various ways to reach out to HPW, and what we will do is, if I can't answer it, I will definitely get it to Liz so that she can follow up with you. So don't hesitate to put those questions in the chat box. Liz, okay, so I'm a junior or maybe a high school senior, and I want to know more. I want to learn more about becoming a dentist. How can I learn more? What are the avenues to explore?
Sure, great question. Well, of course, Health Professions Week is obviously a good place to get started too. I have to plug it. So obviously, Spring HPW and in November, we're participating, so you'll have a chance to do that. But in the meantime, before November, there are a couple of ways to learn about dentistry. So we have a fantastic website. It's called Adia Go Dental, and you would have heard it on the video with Curtis, my lovely colleague. So adia.org/Go Dental. So it really has a wealth of information. Obviously, if you're further along in the pathway and ready to apply, there's a ton of information, really all the application information. But beyond that, further back, when you're still trying to decide if dentistry is right for you, or even the dental profession. So I don't want to just talk about dentistry. When we talk about the dental professions, that includes dental hygiene, that includes, dental assisting, dental technicians, which, I don't have time to go into full details here, but there is information definitely on dental hygiene as well, which is really a great profession too. And there's a lot of perks to being a dental hygienist, especially if you don't want to spend 4 years in dental school and you want to kind of, be really patient focused all the time. Dental hygiene is the way to go. But anyway, Adia Go Dental has a lot of information there. Adia also hosts free events throughout the year. We have an upcoming event this weekend actually in Philadelphia, but which is a little too late for most people to come, but we do have a free event that happens in May. And, that event is partly tailored to people who are, closer to the application, but anyone is encouraged to come. It's free to attend, and our dental schools, have a high representation on these events. So 60 plus, schools out of the 78, and in Canada and the US usually participate. So it's a valuable event to just ask schools questions about their school. It's important to get, it's like you're applying to college all over again. It's getting a feel for the community and who they are and what they do and what's of value to them. So those kind of events are happening throughout the year. As we are in this virtual world and still navigating and probably not going away from it quite yet, we're definitely going to be adding a couple of events throughout the year. So really what I'd say is go into Adia Go Dental, adia.org/Go Dental. There's a newsletter. There's a red button on the homepage. Sign up for our newsletter. It's a free newsletter that comes every month. It'll give you information about dentistry, what's going on, but it'll also give you a heads up about our events, which I really think will, help get you started in the right direction.
Awesome. That all sounds fantastic. Elizabeth Johnson, thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everybody who joined us live, joining us on demand. More to come. We are just barely over halfway through Spring HPW, so we've got a lot more to come for the rest of the month. And we will see everybody again tomorrow. Thanks, Liz. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mandy. Okay, bye.